Hi there. Today, I'd like to share with you some simple techniques to evaluate websites that you're going to be using in your research papers or other class assignments. Taking some time to do a few steps before you utilize a website for your paper can improve the quality of your assignment and improve your grades. So let's take a look at one website. The first thing that you should do is check the date on any website that you're intending to use for a class. Some topics like health should be no more than 3 years old. You don't want to use old information for health or medical websites. Some topics like history can be older, or literature, or like if you were just looking for a movie review or something like that, those can be older. Let's take a look at this website. This one's called Cancer Causing Chemicals in Sunscreens. And we'll look down below and we see that there's a date right here where we can see when it was published. And this is fairly new, so this should be okay. The next thing you should do when you're looking at a website is to check the author of the website. Basically, you want to know, do they know what they're talking about? Should you really be willing to listen to them and use them in a paper? So let's take a look at one website. You can check to see what the website says about them. Like for this website, new IPCC report. This was a commentary on the new climate change report. And it's by this author named Patrick J. Michaels. I can click on that and see some more information about Patrick J. Michaels. And it says he's a senior fellow at the CEI, and he's a professor at Virginia State, and he's done these articles. And this just kind of, tells you some basic information about his background, but it's from the viewpoint of what he decided to share up there. But another thing that you could do when you're trying to investigate the author is you can search for the author's name on Google in quotes. So I took his name, Patrick J. Michaels, and I put it in quotes on Google. And then I got a lot of websites that talked about him. A lot of them are talking about him in general terms. There's one Wikipedia page that would be a really good idea to look at to find more information about him as an author. But as we can see down here below here, it does have a couple of websites that are questioning him as a source. So for instance, on this Source Watch, it says that he's oil-funded global warming skeptic. The next one is, again, oil-funded global warming skeptic. So these are kind of hints that you might want to look again for him as an author, because he might be a biased source if he really is funded by fossil fuel companies. And I would check the Wikipedia article on that as well. The next thing that you should do when you have a website in front of you is to check the publisher or the sponsoring organization that was responsible for putting up that information on a website. Are they a credible source? Why did they publish this information? So let's look at this website. Taxing corporations might be good politics, but it's still bad policy. And it looks like the sponsoring organization or the publisher is named the Cato Institute. One of the things you should be sure to do is to click on the About Us link, or it might be called Who We Are or What We Do. And you can poke around there and see more information about them. Another thing that you could do is search for them on the internet. Wikipedia, again, can be helpful. One thing you want to do is look for if there's any political orientation that the publisher already has that might slant their results or slant what they're saying. Another thing is you want to check to businesses, business interests, or maybe think tanks that have an agenda of some sort. So since here, this one's about the Cato Institute, or published by the Cato Institute, I could search on Wikipedia for Cato Institute, and it tells me that it's libertarian in its political philosophy and advocates a limited role for government. So it's always going to be in favor of lowering or abolishing most taxes. And then later, over here on the side, it says that one of the founders of this organization was Charles Koch of Koch Industries, who's a kind of well-known in business circles for being kind of ruthless business person and funding a lot of very opinionated websites and think tanks. So you might want to check that over. The next thing that you want to be sure to do is to verify the claims made by the website. So for instance, if they make a surprising claim, you want to Google it to verify that it elsewhere. And usually you can make sure that other people are saying kind of the same thing in order to double check and make sure that it's going along with what most people are saying. So here's an example. Again, this is the cancer-causing sunscreens. And I decided to do a web search just for benzene, which was the name of the chemical they said was in these sunscreens that cause cancer. So I'm searching for benzenes, sunscreens, cancer. And then I find a lot of websites that appear to be kind of covering the same news item. So here's one from WebMD. Here's one from Yale University. Here's one from Good Housekeeping, the magazine, and so on. So it looks like there's kind of an agreement across the web that this is a concern. Another thing is if there is research or an original source of information that the article is referring to, you want to try to find the original source of the information. So for instance, for this website, it's talking about Valley Shore, which was the online pharmacy and lab conducting the tests. And they're talking about a petition to the US Food and Drug Administration to recall sunscreens. So this was the original source of this information when they petitioned the Food and Drug Administration. So I'm going to do another search for Valley Shore benzene sunscreens. And I see that there's a website here from Valley Shore, a news report on their blog announcing that they detected benzene in sunscreens. And then here is a citizen petition and other resources from Valley Shore, the original source of the petition to the FDA. So those are some techniques and tricks that you can use to evaluate a website for a course assignment. I hope that this has been useful to you. Thank you very much for joining me.